And so what the Shaykh has done is that he's taken all of the information which is authentic in the Sunnah from the narrations from all of the Sahaba, and he's used the hadith of Abu Umama as the basis, and he's added all of the information from the other Sahaba, so it's one complete narrative from beginning to end. So he's put it together like a complete narrative or a story, so to speak. And the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, O people, there has been no affliction or no fitna upon the face of the earth greater than the affliction or the fitna of Dajjal. Not since Allah created the offspring of Adam alayhi salam. And there will not be another greater fitna up until the hour is established. So this is the greatest fitna. And no one will escape it. No one will escape whatever is before it, but will escape from it. And verily it will not harm a Muslim. And verily it will not harm a Muslim. And Allah has not sent any prophet, but He warned the people against the one-eyed Dajjal, and verily I warn you from him. And I am the last of the prophets, and you are the last of the nations. And he will appear amongst you obviously, apparently. And verily the truth of the affair is near, and everything that is going to happen is near. He will appear because of the anger which will make him angry. So he will appear driven by rage, driven by something which has made him angry. And the last hour will not come until the inheritance will not be divided, nor will the booty be rejoiced over. If he will come forth while I am amongst you, I will argue on behalf of every Muslim. And if he will appear after me, then everyone will argue on his own behalf. And Allah is the helper of every Muslim on my behalf. And if he appears after I die, Allah will make the righteous people sufficient for you against him. And surely he will come forth from the land of the eastern side. It is said, Khurasan. From the Jews of Isbahan, whose faces will resemble shields covered with skin, from the way between Syria and Iraq. And Isfahan is in present day Iran. Isfahan is in present day Iran. He will make mischief towards the right, and he will disorder things towards the left. So, O Allah's servant, be steadfast. O Allah's servant, be steadfast. O Allah's servant, be steadfast. So verily I will describe to you a characteristic which no prophet before me has described. I have told you so much about the Dajjal that I am afraid you may not understand. He will begin saying, I am a prophet, while there is no prophet after me. So the beginning part of his call will be he will claim prophethood. Then the second time he will say, I am your Lord, and you would not see your Lord until you die. So he will begin with the claim of prophethood, and eventually he will end with the claim of lordship. So then the second time he will say, I am your Lord, and you will not see your Lord until you die. Indeed he, Ad-Dajjal, is blind by the left eye, and a thick piece of flesh would be over it, covering the eye, like a green hot burning light. His right eye will be like a floating grape, neither protruding nor deep-seated. He will have thick hair, and beware his position should not be hidden from you. It must not be hidden upon you. Know that your Lord is not blind by one eye. Beware his position should not be hidden from you, not hidden upon you, that your Lord is not blind by one eye. And he said this 3 times. And he pointed towards his eye with his hand, and surely you will not see your Lord until you die. And verily he will walk upon the land, he will walk upon the earth, and verily the land and the heaven belong to Allah. And verily he, the Dajjal, will be a young man with twisted hair and a floating eye. And I compare him with Abdul Uzza ibn Qattan. So he compared him to someone short, hen-toed, and curly hair, and white in complexion. He's a man with curly hair, thick twisted hair, and it is written between his 2 eyes, Kafir. It will be read by everyone who disliked him, every believer, whether he knows how to write or he doesn't know how to write. So every believer will be able to recognize what's written on his forehead. And from his afflictions is that he will have with him a heaven and a hell, a river and a water, and a mountain of bread. So this resemblance of the heaven and the fire will come with him. He will bring this resemblance of the hellfire and the heaven. In fact, his hell is heaven, and his heaven is hell. And one of the Sahaba, Al-Mughira bin Shu'bah radiallahu anhu, asked him about the Dajjal, and he said, they say that he will have a mountain of bread and meat and a river of water with him. And the Messenger ﷺ replied, he is much too insignificant and low to be allowed by such a thing to judge the people. And in another hadith there is mentioned that 2 flowing rivers will be with him. One will be seen like white water, and the second one will be seen like a blazing fire. And whichever one of you finds it and wants water, he should drink out of that from which he sees it like fire. And he should close his both eyes, then should lower his head, and he will find it in reality to be cold, sweet, pure water. And you should not be frightened. In another narration, whoever enters his river, his reward will be wasted. His sin will be recorded, and whoever enters his fire, his reward will be made incumbent, and his sin will be deleted. Therefore, whoever is tested with his fire should seek Allah's help, and should recite unto him the early verses of Surah Al-Kahf. These will be your protection against his affliction. And of his affliction, so from his afflictions is that he will say to a Bedouin, what do you think if I raise alive your father and your mother? Would you then testify that I'm your Lord? And he will answer in the positive. He will say yes. Then 2 devils, 2 shayateen will stand up in the image of his father and his mother. And then they will say, O little son, follow him, meaning the Dajjal, because he is your Lord. So this is one of his tribulations. And also from his tribulations is that he will overcome a soul. He will take a person and he will and he will saw him with a saw until he will cut him in 2 halves. He will cut a person in 2 halves. And also from his affliction is that he will pass by a nearby tribe and he will call them, he will invite them to come and accept him, but they will reject him. They will turn against him. So he will turn against them. And he will make to perish all of the livestock and everything, all of the cattle and the sheep and everything else, and nothing would survive. Everything would be ruined because they rejected his call. Also from the tribulation, from his afflictions, that he will pass by a people and he will call to them. And the people will accept him. They will testify for him. They will accept him. And then he will command, this Dajjal will command the heaven to cause the rain, and it will cause to rain, and it will rain. He will command the earth to grow, and it will grow. Up until the cattle come back in the evening of the same day, fat and big, their hips being raised, and their udders being full of milk. And then he will walk through the desert, and he will say to it, bring forth your treasures, and the treasures will come out and gather before him like a swarm of bees. So these are some of the things which Allah will allow the Dajjal to have in order to bring these afflictions upon the people. Then Dajjal will come forth at the time of the people when the people are in dispute, at the time when the people in general are disputing with each other and they are in division, and when the people will generally hate each other and despise each other, and when the deen or the religion will be treated as a minor thing. Religion will be treated as a minor thing in amongst the people, and the mutual relations between the people will generally be bad. So he will go, so this is the time when he will emerge, when he will come, when the situation is like this, and he will go to every watering place, and the earth will shrink for him as the skin of a ram is wrapped. And then Dajjal will not appear until the Romans land at A'maq or in Dabik, and this is when the Romans will gather against the Muslims, and the Muslims will gather together against them. And so an army consisting of the best soldiers of the people of the earth at that time will come from Medina. So an army will be sent from Medina to oppose these people. And when they arrange themselves in ranks, the Romans will say, don't stand between us and those Muslims who took prisoners from us. Let us fight them. And the Muslims will respond that, no, by Allah, we shall never turn aside from you and from our brethren so that you may fight them. And then there will be a huge, terrible fight. The Muslims will send a detachment for fighting, which will not return until it is victorious. And this group will fight until darkness intervenes, and then both sides will return without any party being victorious, and both will be wiped out. Then Muslims will prepare another detachment for fighting until death, so that they don't return until victorious. So this continues for 3 days, and then on the 4th day, a new detachment from the Muslims will be sent. They will then fight. So this 4th detachment, the detachment on the 4th day, they will be sent. And then from this group, they will fight, and a third of this army will run away, whom Allah will never forgive. Allah will never forgive this group. They will run away. And another third of the army would be those who are excellent martyrs in Allah's eyes. They will fight and they will be killed, and they will be excellent martyrs in the eyes of Allah. And there's another, the third, and they will be the third who will never be put to trial. And Allah will then decree that the enemy, meaning the Romans, they will be defeated, and there will be such a fight like the likes of which has never ever been seen. And it would be so fierce that even if a bird was to fly above their ranks, it would fall down dead before reaching the other end. Meaning that there will be such a large-scale massacre. There will be such a large-scale massacre that when counting will be done, when the dead bodies are counted, out of 100 men related to one another, only one would be found alive. So the massacre would be such that if there were 100 relatives scattered amongst the army fighting, then only one from those 100 relatives would be found alive. So what joy can there be at the spoils of such a war, and what inheritance can be divided? Then this group will enter Constantinople, and they will conquer it. And in another narration that occurs that you have heard of the city, one side of which is inclined and the other which is on the coast, Constantinople, which is Istanbul today, Constantinople. They said, yes, Allah's Messenger. And then thereupon he said, the last hour will not come up until 70,000 people from Bani Israel attack it, meaning Constantinople. When they land, they will neither fight with weapons nor shower arrows, but they will only say, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar. This is the only thing that they will say. And one side of it will fall. Then they will say for the second time, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar. And the other side will also fall. Then they will say, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, a third time, and the gates will open for them, and they will enter. And then they will be collecting the spoils of war, because they've defeated the enemy. And whilst they are distributing the spoils of war, whilst they are disputing the booty between themselves, there will be, and when they are hanging their swords on the olive trees, there will be a call from Shaitan, a false call. And he will say that the Dajjal has taken your place amongst your families.